Okay, the numbers seem to be plateauing off now, so I'm going to make a start and people will just be trickling in. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining this November product update webinar with myself, Dan, and my colleague, Tom, who is going to be on the webinar manning the Q&A tool. As this is a webinar, the microphones and cameras for you all will remain off. However, we do want to interact with you and there is going to be some time at the end. So please do use the Q&A function of Zoom, which hopefully you're all familiar with now, but it will be on your Zoom toolbar, which is either at the top or the bottom of your screen. So today's webinar is really just to demonstrate some of the key product updates and new functionality that we released as a tool over the last couple of months. The development team have been working really hard, listening to your feedback, and I'm really quite excited to show you some of the tools today. We're really going to be focusing on collaboration, so helping groups of land app users, both farmers, estates, and facilitators, and wider land agents as well, use the land app to both visualize and bring out analysis on groups. So that's going to help hopefully loads of your objectives around cohesive land management planning, for example, and really excited to show you that. So the agenda for today is we're going to do, the main bulk is going to be the map of maps update. So this was a huge piece of work that we're delighted to finally have live. We're going to be using an example use case as well. So we partnered up with Cholmondeley Estate, who are a long-time user of the land app, and they've already begun using the map of maps function to help with their estate management. It's worth saying that during that demonstration, the principle is exactly the same for all of the other use cases. So if you're running a facilitation fund, I know we've got a couple of nature partnerships on the call today. And if you're running landscape restorations, we've got a couple of facilitation funds on the call, and also land agencies as well. It's exactly the same principle where multiple holdings, multiple farms, multiple estates can share data to a central point, and you can visualize that. We're also going to look at some new functionality around the project report. So this used to be called the estate report function. We've made some updates to that, which I'll show you. Just makes it a bit more user-friendly, a bit more visual, but also there's a couple more extra functionality around exporting that data. We're then going to look at data layers. So we've made some upgrades to the number of data layers we have. So we've got some new data layers to show you, which hopefully you've noticed trickle in. Plus, we've now released a new functionality that allows you to generate reports based on what data layers you're holding or your client's holding intersects. And then the final five minutes of the demonstration would just be another couple of upgrades that happen. So plenty to demonstrate. And as it says at the bottom, we will be having a 10-minute session at the end for Q&A. So please do get any questions that's either relevant to the demonstration you're seeing or any other questions you may have around the land app, and we'll try our best to answer those during the 10 minutes. Any questions that don't get answered, don't worry, we will be sending around a follow-up email with answers and questions to that. Okay, so we're just going to dive straight in with the map of maps update, a bit about what it is, a bit about where it's come from and how it can be used within the land app ecosystem. So within the land app, I'm hoping that all of you on the call have at least got an account with us, but if not, you can register for free at thelandapp.com, and we have got guidance videos to get you up to speed on that. But the map of maps functionality is for you users that have already begun creating maps and is available to our professional subscribers. Within the land app, what we really want to do is make sure that the user interface is as slick and as useful as possible. And what we're ultimately aiming for is not all of your maps or all of your projects to be contained within a single project. So at the moment on your screen, you can see about 16 or 17 different maps. Each of these are management units within the entire Cholmondeley Estate. So Cholmondeley Estate has got 16 different tenants, including the main estate, which is in-hand farming. So firstly, if you are looking to use map of maps, this is the structure of data that we recommend. So each farmer or each estate or each facilitation group member has their own private map for which they can create their own maps, their own plans, and invite you as collaborators. So just to dive in then, about how map of maps works, what it looks like, and then we'll go on to the admin side afterwards. So this is Cholmondeley Estate. This is, and actually I've already got map of maps on, I've shown behind the curtain too early. So this is Cholmondeley Estate. which is an estate up in Chester. And what you can see at the moment is its baseline map for its in-hand farm. So as I said, it's got 15 other tenants. However, all you can see on the map at the moment is the in-hand farm, and the estate itself covers a wider area. And where all those gaps are different tenants that are running their own farming enterprises, doing their own processes. And this is the same principle as your facilitation groups. You've got multiple individual management units within a given spatial area. And until now, a lot of users we've noticed have been putting multiple SBI numbers within the same project map, which works fine for 5 or 10 projects. However, there's been a number of that are getting into the tens, over 50, and there are a couple that are going further than that, which is really overloading the server and making the user experience really quite difficult. However, the reason that people are doing that is there's a huge amount of value to visualize how one another's farms or your farm members or your tenants fit next to one another. And so this map of maps feature is to do exactly that, is to really allow you to visualize multiple holdings within the same map without fundamentally overloading the server. So as you hopefully are aware that we are a cloud-based desktop, a browser-based platform, sorry, one of my words, a cloud-based mapping platform, which means that we have live collaboration, but it does mean that a lot of that data is being streamed live from our servers. And therefore, if you have too much data in one map, so your project list continues on down, you have a scroll, it can make the performance of the map slow. Map of maps is the answer to that. And I just want to introduce a couple of features that we've introduced around map of maps, and then I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like and how it upgrades. So the first update we've made is, you may have noticed on the right-hand panel that we've introduced this tick box. And this tick box has 2 states. It has either published or unpublished. Unpublished remains black, and by default, everyone's projects will be black. Once you upgrade to Map of Maps, you and your organization's users, so just to reiterate, Map of Maps is only available on the subscription model of Land App. It's not available within the free product. But once you're on that subscription model and you've upgraded to Map of Maps, you and all your organization members have the ability to change the state of that tick box by clicking once on the arrow, and it goes from black to green. And what that does is that then sets the state to published. And when we say published, that doesn't mean that data is being shared externally. We just mean that that is telling the Land App that that project, that loan project, wants to be aggregated and shown within Map of Maps, or filtered through onto the API service. And I'll come onto the API service in the demonstration a bit later. And that's a dynamic process, so you can quickly toggle on and off a map really quite easily. And so for this demonstration, I'm focusing on 2 data layers for Cholmondeley Estate. The first one is the baseline UK habitat assessment, which you can see here, which is just their current existing land use for the estate in the language of the UK habitat classification. And the second data layer that I have published here is the land management plan. And this is actually a real use case that we're working with Cholmondeley on. We're just in the process of engaging the tenants. This is very much early stages. The software's only just been launched. However, the concept for what Cholmondeley wanted to achieve with Map of Maps was to create a cohesive land management plan across the estate that helped improve connectivity of habitats, helped improve its resilience, but also hopefully will find additional funding as well. And the management plan idea, which I know a number of other organizations are looking into, is the idea of improving the edge habitat to any field. So what we've done on behalf of Cholmondeley is we've ran all of their hedge data, and the hedge data that you can download from the Rural Payment Agency. We've ran all of their hedge data through an algorithm automatically, and we've given each hedge line a 6-meter buffer. 3 of those meters are enhancing the scrub, so basically letting the hedge grow wider, and 3 of those meters are either an arable field margin or a grass field margin. So we've got these 2 polygons that have been added to the existing hedgerow data. So just to show you, you can see where the existing hedgerows are, and we on behalf of Cholmondeley have just added those hedges with a buffer. Now at the individual estate, just the in-hand farming estate, that creates quite a lot of extra habitat. But the real power comes in is when we start engaging the tenants in the same principle, which is, you've got these hedgerows, can we start building connectivity corridors? So what Map of Maps allows you to do is tick the green box for the 2 projects I want to publish, At midnight every night, the Land app goes and aggregates all of the projects that have got that state to tick, so the ones that are green, and creates a data layer based on the project template that's ticked. And when I say that, I mean all of the countryside stewardship gets aggregated into a single layer, all of the basic payment projects get aggregated into a single layer, and so on and so forth. So the two that we're looking at are aggregating the baseline habitat assessments across all the different tenancies and aggregating all the land management plans across all the different tenancies. So at midnight, they create basically 9 different data layers if you've got 9 different ticked. And what that means is, at midnight, you will have access to, and I'm just going to the top right-hand side of my screen, to a new tab within your data layers. So you may have noticed that the data libraries had a bit of a revamp on the right-hand side. We've now got these drop-down boxes, but there is now a tab called Organization. So this is a new feature. The Organizational tab is where all of your map of maps sit. So you can see within my project, and I'll come on to the costings a bit later on, but at the moment within my organization, the landapp.com organization, we've got 51 projects. So that's 51 projects published. So that's 51 projects within my organization, or projects that are shared with me, and I'll come on to that as well, that have got this green arrow ticked. At midnight last night, everything that was baseline habitat assessment that was ticked has now been aggregated into a single data layer. So although, and just to turn that off again and just to show you the difference, although within this map, I've only got the baseline habitat assessment for this part of the estate, when I turn on my baseline habitat assessment base map, it kind of fills in the gaps. It allows me to see how different landowners, so that could be different members of my facilitation fund or different tenants, fit in with my farm or my estate or the estate that I'm representing at the moment. Now that data is being streamed from a separate project map. So you remember at the start, I was at the project dashboard and you saw those 16 different maps. What you're seeing now is all 16 of those maps put next to one another. So that in that model, there's only one source of truth. So this tenant at the top here, I can't edit that data from this map. I can click on the data and inspect it. So I can click on the grassland type, for example, and get a bit of information on the right-hand side. However, if I wanted to enhance that baseline map, I would have to go into the map, and I'm going to do that in a moment. But just to show you around that idea with the connectivity project, you can also toggle on all the different land management plan options. So for example, now that estate connectivity plan, so this could be a hedgerow restoration project, this could be, where are we restoring species-rich grassland or planting woodlands? This is a landscape view of a potential future scenario for this estate. Again, just to reiterate, that hasn't been fully agreed. We're still now working with tenants to understand where is actually suitable, what makes sense. But this is more of a tool to visualize a potential scenario. But you can see that the potential for this is really quite massive. So if I did want to, for example, edit the land management plan or edit the baseline for that tenant, instead of trying to edit it in here, I would have to go to the one source of truth. So each farm has its own individual site, its own individual map. And that hyperlink to that map is stored in this right-hand panel. So I'm going to go to farm number 13, Walnut Tree Farm. I click that, and I'm now taken into the one source of truth. So this is actually where this farmer and the tenant and the estate are working together to improve their baseline, or it could be design a stewardship plan. But you can see that the 2 data layers that I wanted have got this green tick published on the left-hand side. And just to show you that that land management plan buffer as well, this is where potentially we could be working to improve the hedgerow corridors. So that's what we're really, really excited to share, is the fact that you can now seamlessly aggregate and share data from various different maps onto a single visualization. So just to show you kind of the reverse way, if I then wanted to go back, because I'm in the organization, I can turn on the estate boundary and I can go back to the main estates map. So I'm using that map of maps as a management tool and as a visualization tool of all the different clients that I'm working with, or different tenants I'm working with, or different farms I'm representing in my facilitation fund. This isn't just limited, by the way, to just interacting on the land app. There's other ways that you can export this data. The first way, which is the most common way, is you can actually print this map. So just to show you that if I wanted to print the map, I can actually now print, and this might be a facilitation fund, I can print with my map of maps switched on. So for example, if you are wanting to get an overarching landscape view of how everyone fits together, again, the print functionality works exactly the same as it was before. However, I've got that data layer turned on, which means that I can see all of my baseline farms and put them all together, adjust it, and customize my print as so. It's worth saying at the moment, when you want to insert the legend at present only works for the projects that are in the overall map. So only the main estate's legend is coming through at the moment. Next round of updates are going to include within that legend all of the features that are found within the project, and that's just something to be made aware of early. But we are looking to bring that in. So that's you being able to print your map of maps. You can aggregate data within your organization. So for example, a number of the land agents on the call are going to have a number of basic payment projects and countryside stewardship projects that they've been working on over the last couple of years. As an organization, you can now work together and publish using map of maps, all of those different layers and visualize them at the landscape scale. So actually now when I zoom out, I'm working with one other group of farmers down in Surrey. I can get an overarching view of every different project that I'm working with, both at the the overarching view, and just to show you at zoom level 6, the colors start to show. So the styling only kicks in when you get to a certain degree of level, but once I get to that level, the colors start to show. And again, likewise, I can then just click on one of those features and I can get it. I can dive into that map if I needed to have a look at the the one source of truth, edit that. It's worth to reiterate within that principle that that data isn't just available through map of maps. A number of you, we are aware, are using other mapping platforms or other databases. That aggregated data is available through our API service. So we run a service where we can share live data through an API link to an external source. That might be another GIS platform, for example, or a property management system. So if you are interested in exploring how the API can help you, do get in touch and we can set that up. But fundamentally, what that still leaves is there's one source of truth. So if you make any edits on the land app, whoever is receiving your API will receive an updated management plan or updated stewardship. So we've hopefully gone are the days where we have to share a static paper map of a stewardship application, when now we can share an API feed from that one source of truth. So if anything changes within that stewardship, say the margin moves, everyone gets the updated view. And there's no limit to the number of recipients of that one source of truth. So I'm just going to go back onto my map for a moment. So within here, I can choose to invite. So if I was estate manager at Cholmondeley Estate, I'm not, we're working in partnership with them. I could choose to invite multiple people to access my data. So I might be part of a facilitation fund, but I also want to contribute to the local nature recovery strategy or DEFRA's sustainable farm incentive or a private funding scheme. Again, I just want to have one source of truth, and you can choose to share that data with whom you wish, either through the map of maps or through an API. And the way that works is we've released a new level of permission. So just to, oh, excuse me, I'll come on to that in a minute. So just to show you, I'm going to go on a random demo. This is my random demo. We've released a third level of permission. So as in this scenario, I am now outside of an organization. I am a lone farmer who owns my own data. I've created my own maps, my own tenancy boundaries. However, I've been asked by, say, Cholmondeley Estate, who wants to potentially start a facilitation fund, or the local wildlife trust who has got access to map of maps. They want me to contribute my baseline and my land management plan to their map of maps. So what we've introduced is a third level of permission called publisher. And unlike the other two, so just to talk them through, just to reiterate, the read only is just like Google Sheets. You can invite someone in, they can have a look at your data, interact with it, zoom in and out and click on it, but they can't delete or edit the data. We've got the editor permission, which gives them permission to come in and look and view, but also interact with the data in terms of changing shapes of polygons or changing the attribution or deleting features. And then the third level of permission is kind of the highest level, which gives you editorial rights. So you can edit the data, as well as you give them permission to use your baseline or use your BPS to feed into the aggregated map of maps. So for example, I can invite Tim into this map as a publisher. Now, Tim and his organization can come in and they can tick this box, my red line boundary, to aggregate through their map of maps. And why this is really powerful is this leaves the ownership of the data in the hands of the landowner or the land manager or the tenant, and it doesn't restrict other organizations, the local wildlife trusts or local land agencies, interacting with the same source of truth. Because what we need in the sector right now is more people collaborating and less people reinventing the wheel in different situations. So if the landowner has access to their own one source of truth, they can then collaborate through the publisher function with a local grassland ecologist and a local land agent who helps them with their stewardship agreement, for example. And there's no limit to the number of publishers that a user can bring in. It's worth saying that in this scenario, this farmer is a free user of the land app. You can, in the free version, invite people as publishers to your map for free. And the people that have to pay in that situation are the organizations that want to aggregate data. So again, just to tell the difference between those two levels of permission, you've got your free users, you know, the lone farmer that's working on their lone cropping plans and a VPS, but they might be interacting with a professional, say a land agency, who can be invited as a publisher, plus they'll be working with other clients. So that professional user has to be in the upgraded system. So Map of Maps is very much for facilitation fund leaders. So the key facilitators, it's for land agents, it's for ecologists working across multiple firms. However, we don't foresee, although it is available, you know, the lone farmer to, you know, be using that functionality on the way off. But we do see farm groups being a real key user of this data. Excuse the noise in the background, I do apologize. So that's the Map of Maps functionality in terms of how it works and the new levels of permission. To get set up, what we have done is we've introduced a new section of your My Organization. So if you click the little person button, the little menu at the top right hand side of your screen, you need to visit My Organization. This person that follows this workflow that I'm just asked to show you has to be your administrator. So if you're part of an organization, please do contact your administrator to follow this demonstration. And we have got a video out to show you this next workflow. But within your organization settings tab, we've introduced this new section, which is called the data section. Within your organizational data layers, your administrator will be able to dictate or choose how many projects each user, or how many projects the organization is able to publish. And therefore within there, you can also see how much it costs. And to do that, you click this green manage button on the right-hand side. By clicking manage, you're met with this pop-up screen, and it shows you all the different prices for the different tiers of organization data layers. Just to flag up that everyone who's on the professional service can try Map of Maps for free today. And we've given you up to 15 projects a month for free. So if you want to just test it, just contact your system administrator, get them to come to the manage section and click on the up to 15 projects and click done. And what that does is that will then unlock the ability for you and your organization to tick the green, to tick that arrow to turn it green in each of your individual maps. When you, within the organization, tick a project, the land app just keeps count of that. At the moment, because my administrator or myself has said that the maximum tier, so just to reiterate, this is the maximum number of projects your organization can publish, not the true value of what you're going to be charged. The maximum is 15. As soon as we publish the 15th one, no one else in the organization will be able to publish anymore and the organization won't be charged. However, if you choose to say have 151 to 500 projects and you click done, what your organization will be able to do is keep publishing projects until they hit that upper limit of 500, and then again it will stop. The price is calculated dynamically monthly. So this month I've only published 2 projects, and it therefore is going to cost me £0, even though my maximum published number is 500. Next month we might be at, say, 17. So next month, if we do hit 17, I'll be charged 20 pence per project I've got published per month. And then you can see that's tiered and dynamic. Just to say, you can downgrade as well. So if you, for example, say administrator was like, actually you can do 500 projects, and then you realize, actually, no, we probably don't need that. You can just drop down and click done. If you have already got too many projects published, so say you're over the threshold, you will just need to unpublish some before you can downgrade. But what we have introduced is it's fully flexible, fully dynamic, just on a monthly rolling basis. There's no subscription. You know, it's really more of a pay-as-you-go model on a monthly basis that you can just unsubscribe or unpublish whenever you wish. But yeah, just to reiterate, 15 projects for free. So after this, if you are on the professional service, I really would recommend just getting your system administrator just to click the 15 projects and just have a play. But just do remember that it takes until midnight the following day to properly for the data to be aggregated and put into the data layers maps. So just to reiterate, upgrade first. So you need the administrator to choose the threshold. You then come and publish the maps that's needed. They then are available in the data layers section. And within your organization, you will have a tally of the number of projects that's been published. So you can see when you're nearly hitting the threshold. And we also display the total cost that month. So for 51 projects for this month, it's going to cost me £9.60. As I add more projects, that number will tick up and it will stop as soon as I hit 500. So that is map of maps. I'm just going to check my handy spreadsheet to make sure I haven't missed anything. I've covered the print, and I've covered charging. And yeah, pretty happy with that. But again, I'm just going to take a pause, Tom, and if there's any questions about map of maps that I can reiterate, you let me know. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. We have had a handful of map of maps questions. So rather than save them till the end, it might be worth just covering a few of those now. You might have partially answered some of the questions, but I think it's worth going over some of them for clarity's sake. So number one, is it possible to export map of maps, or is it view only?
Yeah, really good question, Ursula. So the map of maps, like I said, you can export it. The easiest way to export it is through the API service. So the API is a live export that sends this data to a recipient, and we can send guidance out on that if anyone's interested. Other than that, you can't at the moment bulk download everything that's shared within your map of maps. If you did want to extract the data manually, we have got the export button at the top right hand side of your screen, so you can come and export. However, that is only on the map project level, so you can't export all your map of maps. You will need to go into the individual maps and export if you want, for example, to export the shapefile or the JSON file.
Brilliant, thanks, Dan. Secondly, if you to have many clients on the dashboard, can you filter which of those clients are in your map of maps?
Stephen, that's a very good question. And at the moment, no. That's a really nice idea for some development, and I will speak to the development team and let you know. So at the moment, you can filter by tags. Nearly exit the screen. So yeah, at the moment, you filter by project tags. So where's a good example of that? All these different project tags. So I think we've got farming, for example. But yeah, it might be quite nice to highlight where your organization's got a map of maps. I will feed that back through and we can see what we can do, but at the moment, no.
And just to tag on to the end of that one, Dan, if you had, could you have a map for, let's say, client A, B, and C, and then another separate map of maps for client D, E, and F?
Yeah, good point. And again, not at the moment. For a whole organization, the map of maps is shared for every single one of the individual project templates. So for all clients, basic payment will be put into one, all basic habitats will be put into one. Very much worth saying this is version 1, and this type of feedback, Stephen, 2 very good points, and really happy to explore those and see what's possible.
Okay, next question comes from Sarah. Is the map of maps visible to all users who have shared their map of maps with you or their map with you, or just those who belong to the organization?
Yeah, good question, Sarah. And no, the only people that can see the map of maps are people within your organization. So within your organization, you will have people inviting you to be publisher. You then publish that data. However, the organizational data layer within the maps is only visible by users who are within the organization itself. So no, if you get invited by 5 people, they can't see one another's. It's only the organization that sits in the middle that can visualize that data.
And just from Ben, if you only want the admin to control the map of maps publishing, can this be done?
Not at the moment. We have discussed this, and there's a couple of updates coming in the new year around this. I think myself and Glenn did have some conversations about this. At the moment, the administrator, the admin obviously has time. They're the only one that can limit the total number. However, which ones are chosen is at the moment up to everyone within the organization. So if you're a large organization, for example, it may be worth sending around an email about the types of data you do want published. You know, for example, just stewardship projects that are final, or just basic payments that are final. But yes, there's definitely some developments we can do on that.
Okay, and I'll just ask one more, Dan, and then any other questions we can save to the end, just conscious of time. So is sharing data through an API live, or does that update at midnight, like the map of maps? That question's from Angus.
Yeah, good question. So actually that's in the hands of whoever's handling the API. So the way that APIs work they are a direct link to the data, but the database that we're connecting to can choose whether to call it every minute, every hour, every day, or every week. We've decided as a land app to basically do that process at midnight because it makes sense to do it every day. However, it might be that you need, less dynamic data, so you just call it every month or every two for a report, or it might be that you need it hyper live, which is call it every minute. And our API can handle them all. It's just very much down to the engine you're using on your end.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Dan. I'll let you carry on and we'll do another question answer session at the end.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, really good questions there, everyone. Okay, so we're moving on to the next section, which is project reports. So as I mentioned in the introduction, what we've done is we've updated the old estate report button, and some of you may have noticed we put a little new icon at the top, and we've just renamed it from estate report to reports. Minor changes, but a bit more inclusive that way. And so in this demonstration map, I've got my basic payment, I've got a bit of a baseline, which looks like this. I've got a land management plan, some countryside stewardship. This is just a demo that I've just plucked from my organization. And these are all the different projects that I have. But if I now visit the reports button at the top right hand side of my screen, it looks a bit different. We used to pre-populate that with all the projects you have. However, it was getting a bit heavy with lots of projects. What we're now doing is giving people a lot more flexibility to choose which projects they want summarizing and which order they get produced. So the way that we produce a new project summary report, is you click the add project button. And you can either choose just individual projects like my basic payment or my land management plan, or you can bulk select them all. And for this demo, I'm just going to bulk select them all and click done. And what that does is it just quickly creates a report for each of these and hides them in this accordion type format. So I wanted to see what was contained within my basic payment scheme. I click it and it drops down. So that's the first update. We've got this accordion structure for all these different projects. The next update that you may have noticed is that we've just changed a bit of the user view, the UI, user interface. So we've just added some more color and hopefully structured it a bit nicer. So the stewardship and the basic payments actually, they go in alphabetical, which was quite nice. And also we've just broken them down into their headings. So you not only get a summary of the total amount of arable land going in, but you also get a breakdown of each of your stewardship options. So that's just another quick update we've done and would appreciate feedback. We have added as well a percentage column. So you can see what percentage of the total farm area is going into each option. So for example, in this stewardship agreement, 79% is going into an arable option and 9% is going into supplementary options like the threatened species one I've got here. So that's just a nice addition. And we are exploring other columns that we could have, but we'd be interested if anyone's got any feedback of what would be useful in this just high level summary. Let us know. For example, costings is one of the price points is one of the ones that for stewardship might be quite useful. We have also added a couple of extra buttons to the right hand side. I just wanted to flag up. The first one isn't a new function, it's just moved location. Well, actually, it's just not actually moved, it's still in its old location. We've just added an extra touch point here, and that's this table view. So many of you that were doing stewardships and basic payment last year are fully aware that you can actually export your data, not as a high level summary, but also as a breakdown of how each of those interventions or each of those options fit within row by row. So to fill out your annex form, for example, for a stewardship. So what we've just done, and just to show you that again quite quickly, is that we've added a table view button here, so you can instantly access the table view for each of those projects through that report function, rather than having to go like it used to be in the left-hand panel. Again, nothing's changed in here. You can still export to Excel, download your basic payment claim, for example, or download your countryside stewardship or land management plan to Excel, and that just sits into your download folders. Also within reports, a couple of other functions is that you can now actually download, and this is new, you can actually download this table. So instead of only being able to download it row by row, field parcel breakdown of each option, you can download a Excel spreadsheet of this overview. So if you are, for example, wanting to summarize for a client their countryside stewardship, instead of getting a table and then having to do the summaries yourself, we've just automatically done it. So you can export this page as you can see it right now. The final button is a dustbin. That doesn't mean you're deleting the project from the map. It just means that you can now delete the project from your report. So I can remove my countryside stewardship project from my list. Again, if I've removed it, I can then add it again by going back to add project. So it's just, if you want to make this less clunky for whatever reason, you can delete and remove. Now you'll notice that my countryside stewardship, because it's a new project, has been added to the bottom. We have released another bit of functionality, which we've been requested quite a few times, is you now have the ability to change the order of these projects. So you can either put them in alphabetical order if you've got a bit of OCD like myself, or you can move them in order, so clump the basic payments together. And you do that by using this reorder projects button at the top right. Once it's toggled on, as per many of the other features, it goes to this nice goldy yellow, and you can therefore just change the order of these options. And I think when speaking to Lukash, our development, if you click the expand projects, you can move basic payment, but then it remembers that it was open last time, so it will just reopen that again. So they're just some updates to the project report function. Some of the eagle-eyed viewers may notice there's this data layers tab. Just hold that thought, I will come back to that in a moment. But that is the updates to the projects report page. I'm going to keep going, Tom, if that's okay, and we'll go to the Q&A at the end, just conscious of time.
Yeah, perfect.
So we've updated, as I said, data library. We've obviously released this organizational tab for any more professional users using Map of Maps, but we have actually released a number of new a number of new spatial overlays, a number of new data layers that have been requested. And we've got a new developer in whose now pretty much sole job is to put new data layers in. So I think at the end of this webinar, there will be a question around what updates you want to see. If within there's any data layers that currently aren't in the software that you really want to see, do make sure you feed it back through that questionnaire as well, as well as saying other things that would be useful. So the first data layer that we've been requested quite a few times is the indicative atlas of radon. So this is mainly for your the sales and planning teams. And what this is just a national view of the radon data from the British Geological Society. And this is at 1 kilometre grid squares. As per all of our data, it is vector, which means it's not just viewable. Like on some other mapping platforms, you can actually click on it and work out what value that is. So it's got the different tile number and the class. But to refer to exactly what that means, we have, for all data layers now, put in the source code, so where that data has come from, licensing terms, etc. So you can access that, and that again is a hyperlink that you can click on and go to the British Geological Society website about radon if interested. So that principle is actually for all data layers. Sorry, so actually if you turn on designations, for example, there should be source information. Where's my AOMBs? There we are. There should be source information and also, hot links to more data. So that's a really quite key part of what we're really proud of at LandApp, is we're really, as much as possible, trying to host data layers that we can contain information in, rather than just being a visual. We're trying to hold information, and that's why all of the data layers you can click on and we can inspect and add hot links and further information, such as source code. So that was the radon data. The other data set, let me just check my list, is the utilities. So under the utilities tab, we've actually released quite a few new data layers, mainly around the national grid. And actually, I'm just going to turn these all on so you can see what they look like. Again, this is another UK-wide data set, so where the existing national grid lines are. But the closer you zoom in, the more resolution you get on different features. So, for example, I can't remember off the top of my head what this one is. National grid gas pipes, for example, and then you zoom in again and you get different bits of information, such as this infrastructure building here. So that's just for anyone who's obviously using utilities data. And I think that is both above ground and below ground utilities. So it's obviously got the national grid and it's got the gas pipes that are underground. So that was just a popular request, and you can toggle those on and off. And again, they are vector data, so you can click on them and get further information about what they are, what their status is, more details, etc. So that's the utilities. There's another update that's happened to the water within the water tab. So we have released all of the boreholes. When I say release the boreholes, we've updated our borehole data. The old borehole data we hadn't realized was quite out of date. We've now just refreshed it all, and we've got hundreds of thousands of borehole data. I didn't even realize there was this many across the country. But again, that's only visible at a certain level of resolution, but you can see all these different boreholes. There's obviously hotspots and not. And again, that's vector data. So when you're speaking to, when you're looking at the data, you can click on it. And what we have done for you is we've linked in with the British Geological Society's borehole data set, and you can actually go and inspect the exact survey form for each of those boreholes. So within that is all the profile of the boreholes, and there's actually some really interesting data contained within here, you know, soil type, depth, a whole manner of other things. Some of them, and this one didn't, but some of them have got multiple in, but just to show you, and maybe I can find a demo, some of them have got multiple scans in, and some of them have also got errors in. There we are. Sorry, that was, yeah, do apologize, but that's a bit out of our control. But I can't find it at the moment, but sometimes there are multiple forms within. You can just click the next button at this top left-hand side of the screen to visit the different pages for the different technical records for that borehole. So those are the main data sets. We've got another couple on test, which haven't quite been released yet, which hopefully some of you will be excited about. We've got the peatlands data set for England coming through, and we've also got the Great Crested New Opportunity offset sites coming through as well, which have been requested by popular demand. So those are other data sets. So the next bit of functionality I just want to quickly show you is, so we've got all these data sets coming in. We're hoping to get more and more data in, and we realize it can be really overwhelming to constantly have to turn on and off all these different data sets to work out where your farm or your client's farm intersects all these different data sets. So what the development team have done is they've built a data layers report function. So this is my farm, but what we've got the ability to do is summarize all the different data for which your farm or your tenant's farm or your estate boundary or whatever intersects. And that's also within this new project template, but instead of being on this projects tab, you go across to the data layers tab. And just like before, you always have to start by creating a new report. And this, you basically define your reference area. So when you create a report, you choose which of your projects you want to create a report on. So at the moment, I've only got access to all those different projects. And actually, just to demonstrate before I do this, it might be, and just so we get a bit more of an interesting amount, I'm actually going to create a bit of a larger search area. So let's just create, let's search around Tim's family farm like this. Let's create a report on that. I've got a project called blank. I then go back into report function and to my data layers tab, but I want to create a report on that blank square. So I basically just want to know what data is happening in that area. So the first thing to say is this works in exactly the same way printing does. So this is a transactional cost. So regardless if you're a paid subscriber or a free user, there is a fee associated with this report. However, what we've done is we've hopefully priced it extremely competitively in comparison to other tools. So there is a base price for the total area. So for example, I'm doing just over 2,000 hectares. Base price is £3.80. And then depending on how many data layers you intersect, it goes up by a percentage of that £3.80. So for this demonstration, I'm actually going to run, all the designations, all the administrative, which includes, my local planning authorities. And you can be a bit more specific, such as I just want to know about ancient woodlands and beelines, but I'm not interested in habitat networks, or you can tick them all. So the more you tick in, you can see that price is then going up. So there is a base price and then the number of layers that you choose to intersect. Really useful one, for example, is, and I can see this being a huge use case, is you can search an area and just scan all the HM registry title numbers, for example, and I'll show you what that report looks like in a minute. Other ones, obviously, habitat networks, etc. So once you're happy with what data layers you're intersecting, you click next, and then you give the project a name. So this is my demo. It's got a price excluding VAT, and exactly the same as printing again. If you are a professional user, we have the ability to create a billable, non-billable monthly report for you to then pass on that cost to clients. So for my 2,000 hectare block, it's going to cost me £21 plus VAT. And again, this is a demo, and I'm going to make it billable 001. When you click buy now, that is you confirming to, committing to buy that data and to buy that data report. What then happens is the land app sends that box. So I was doing it on a box. You can do it on your farm boundaries. You can do it on whatever shape you have in your projects. Is it basically runs off to our database and just runs that boundary intersecting all the data layers that we host. And it's going to return all of the data layers that both were within that bounding box. And you can see the reports being generated now, nearly at 100%. There we are. And what it didn't intersect. So for my 2,500 odd hectares, I've got all of these different data layers, and this is how much I've intersected of them all. So it's a quick way of basically summarizing any given area of what data layers it intersects, or the designations, etc. So just to run through a couple of these, I'm not going to labor the point too much, but like public rights of way, that bounding box has 38,000 meters of public rights of way in, so nearly 39 kilometers. It tells me what local authorities are in, and the way that we've structured it, just to show you, is it basically goes alphabetical based on the category first, and then it goes alphabetical based on the data layer, and then it goes within the subcategory, and depending on what the data layer is will dictate what subcategory it is. It will go in the order of which one's the biggest first. So for example, I'm mostly in the Waverley local planning authority, with 79% of my bounding box in there, and then there's 20% of it in Guildford. So we just structure it that way, so alphabetical, and then by area. Again, all of that data has got the source information contained, so you can see where we've got that data from, and within there you can see when that data set was last updated. All of the data now that we're serving is live from the original source. So if, for example, Natural England updated their priority habitat yesterday, at midnight, we would go and get the updated data set. So these reports are as up to date as we can get for our users. There's a number of different data sets that, oh, hi Semna, are you pushing to me now? Help improve our experience. There we are, Net Promoter Score. Appreciate everyone's feedback on that as well. So for example, scheduled monuments, it tells me the different ID numbers for those scheduled monuments. For the habitat networks, it breaks down that subcategory to the different priority habitats I have within that area, and also the percentage cover. So if, for example, you're running a facilitation fund, you can get your facilitation fund boundary, turn on all the data layers, and get a real quick understanding of what SSSIs you have in terms of their name and their ID number, what priority habitats you have, etc. I mentioned that the HM Registry title one is going to be really, I think, a used product, is that you draw a bounding box, and we've got the total area of each land holding and their reference. So this is a really quick way to work out who is the biggest landowner in that given area. Obviously, you have to take this unique reference number to HM Registry and pay their £3 fee to actually get the address back. We are working on an update to host address details, and actually it might be in at the moment. I'll have a look. But you've obviously got then a return of all the different title numbers that your bounding box intersected. And yeah, it's quite a big report. So I'm just going to scum down. You can see how many different data layers we've intersected. Lots of title numbers. And Okay, and right at the bottom, yeah, that was a bigger report than I thought it would be. Right at the bottom, it also returns where there's null results, i.e. where it doesn't intersect a certain designation. So within my bounding box, there was no biosphere reserves, there's no national parks, there's no Ramsar site, which is actually just as important. So for example, if you're doing a forestry EIA and you've got the outline of the forestry block, you can run it really quickly, return whether you need to apply for, statutory designations or whether you're in a triple SI, etc. And it hopefully just speed up some of your workflow. And again, that cost can be pushed on to the client if you're representing a client. A couple of other functions. It says who produced that report, when it was generated, and that is stored within our database. So you can come back and download that report for a year, as many times as you want, and you can edit the job code and the name in there. So just going to jump to the top. And yeah, as per the project templates, you can actually download that data to Excel and export for your given area. Just worth showing, you can create multiple reports, so you're not limited to just having one. I can create one for my baseline or land management plan and run it off those smaller areas. And the Land App will basically just save in here all your different reports in exactly the same format as here. So you can return and maybe see site 1, site 2, site 3, or tenancy, all tenancy A, B, C. And that will just get stored within that data report. So hopefully I can see lots of questions coming through. It's great. We've got 10 minutes left. So I just wanted to say the one final update. So linked reports. So 2 seconds. I think the only other update that we want to turn on is, oh yeah, so we've introduced just some functionality around, you can see how many data layers you've got turned on. So at the moment I've got 4 turned on, and to find them, we've introduced this little yellow dot. So I can see which of the categories has got a data layer turned on. As soon as I turn off those data layers, that yellow dot disappears. And with ownership, I think, just to double check, when you turn on the freehold information, we've got, oh yeah, this is a really nice update, is once you turn on the freehold information, you click on that data, you can actually now see who owns that polygon. So we've gone and accessed, this title is not owned by a company. Right, let's find one that is owned by a company. Okay, I have to double check that, but I think we've got only access to ones that are owned by businesses, and I seem to remember on a call only 13% of data. Let's try a town one. I want to prove to myself that this works. Here we are. So once you find a ownership, if we've got the information, so if it's open source on HM Registry, we basically display that property address, who owns it, when it was acquired, and again, you can copy that information and take it to HM Registry or whatever you need. So that's all open data, and we basically had, for that, we've had to join 2 pieces of data. So that's actually quite a unique attribute. Normally with HM Registry, they're actually 2 separate data layers that we've performed the join on. Okay, so I'm happy with that demonstration. I can see there's a number of Q&As coming in. So Tom, do you want to maybe work through the Q&As and we can try and answer them as we go? But really, thanks for listening, and hope you found that useful.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. That was really good. So jumping in, we've got another handful of questions. So just starting from the top, why are some data layers available to copy to project, such as the triple SIs, whereas others aren't, such as the SAC or SPA data?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So the reason we're doing that is because of the size of the polygons on average. So when it's a really big polygon, like a national parks, I think, what did you just mention there, Ursula? Triple SIs, you can. Yeah, it's a size limitation thing. So triple SIs, you can. If there's some layers that you really think you should, just really drop us a quick email for our developers to turn that process on. It takes them a couple of minutes. So we can turn stuff on if you really need it. And just if it starts to look like it's overloading the server, we might have to turn it off again. But yeah, it's just due to a size limitation.
Great, thanks, Dan. Couple of questions now from Angus. The first of which is it possible to generate data layer reports based on map of maps?
Angus, so at the moment, no. That is something we'd like to do, but at the moment it's not. And the reason for that is because actually the data that's showing on map of maps isn't entirely the same format. It's more of a visualization at the moment, unless you work through. But again, that's something that can go on the list. So no, at the moment, it's just for your projects, and you obviously can draw a more bespoke project. So if, for example, you want to run it on a water body, this is if you want to run, I think you can copy project water body. Yeah, so for example, if your facilitation group was at a water body, you could basically create a project on this water body and create a report on that water body. But at the moment, no, if it's just going to have to be at the project level at the moment.
Okay, and secondly from Angus is, can you pull in the Forestry Commission targeting and scoring layers for the EWCO applications into the data layer list?
Yep, so we've got the list of those for the England Woodland Creation offer. I'm still awaiting just a formal response from Forestry Commission, exactly where they're stored. But yes, as soon as we've got that, we're moving. We're really keen to get them in, and we've got a concise list of what they are. But exactly, Angus, I can see that being a really valuable thing. Forestry data layers, check your designations, but also just tick on red squirrel creation or woodlands for water and a couple of the other targeting as well. So yeah, good point. We are working on it. Thank you.
Next question, Dan, from Liz, and it's about the data layers report function. So if you can download the report that you generate for a year, but is it a snapshot from when the report was generated, or does it update information automatically if you go back and download it, for example, 3 months later?
I'm not sure, Liz. It's a really good question, and I will have to double check, and we'll put it on the email back to you. I think that it's a snapshot. So if you did want to rerun the report, I'll have to double check. I don't want to answer the question. I'm unsure, but either is possible. I suppose I'd be interested which one you prefer. I think you want the most up to date, or do you want the snapshot? But I will speak to the developers and we'll put it on the follow-up email.
Brilliant, thanks, Dan. Next question from Vincent. Are the countryside stewardship maps accepted in an RPA application yet?
Vincent, and we have very good news, and yes, they are. We have released some guidance, which you can find in here. I think if you type in stewardship map in the help, countryside stewardship mapping guidance, we've got a little guide that basically just shows you what you need to ensure is on your map, like the scale of the map, the labels of the map, make sure the styling is set to default. But yeah, last year we had a couple of land agencies using land app maps to support their annex form. So the land app doesn't replace the annex form, the spreadsheet, you still need to fill that out. However, instead of using your crayons, you can now use a land app printout, as long as you follow this guidance on stewardship.
Great, thanks, Dan. Next question from Neil, and that's, when will we be providing project templates for the SFI scheme and other ELMS schemes? Yep,
really good point. Soon. We are just aware that the SFI and ELMS generally isn't fixed. It's still quite dynamic, and software does take a bit of time. So we're just discussing with Janet Hughes and her team around a basic template that will help SFI. But yeah, we are going to put one in very soon. So just watch this space.
Yeah, and it's probably worth me adding at this point that when everyone leaves the webinar, we do have a few questions to answer upon exiting, one of which is what do you want to see in the land app next? So feel free to give us your feedback at that stage as well. We're really keen to get as many of these ideas going as possible. So the next question, Dan, from Rebecca. In the data layers reports, can you see the location? How do you know which data layer is located where if you search a large area?
Yeah, good point, Rebecca. So at the moment within data layers, the only bit of spatial information we give is the center grid reference for where you ran it. So I ran it in Guildford, that's the middle point. However, for you to then see where those public rights of way are, or those local planning authorities are, you then do have to go back and turn on those data layers. So local planning authorities and public rights of way. So at the moment, we don't return that data set as a visual. It potentially could be part of the update. It's not on the list to be, but as Tom said, if you think that'd be really valuable, maybe pop that into end of call survey. So yeah, you have to visualize it like so.
Okay, yeah, we have 1 minute left, Dan, so I think one more question. Imogen, I hope we answered your question on the countryside stewardship. Yeah, we're now being accepted from the land app. So the last question from Amanda, is there any way to select smaller polygons on the land registry data layer when they're copied on a larger polygons, they can't be selected and copied?
Yes, we are aware of this and we're trying to fix it. At the moment, when there's two polygons overlapping due to data, we are just thinking of how we best fix it. So at the moment, no, unfortunately. If there is, just get in touch on the chat at the bottom. If there's a particular shape you need, a particular polygon, we do have access to it in the back end. So on a bespoke level, we can help you. So just drop us a message if that's really impeding your workflow.
Okay, yeah, I think good news is, Dan, that's all the questions we've had so far, and it's exactly 3, so we're right on time. So yeah, thanks everyone from my side, and I'll just let Dan sign off.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Really appreciate the help. Just for everyone's benefit, Tom joined the growth team about 3 months ago, so he's now becoming the face of Land App with us. But yeah, we're really here to help you, really keen to support you through this transition. So if there's any updates or things that would make your life easier at both the individual or the group level, do get in touch. But hope you enjoy the new updates, and please do fill out the survey when you finish. Thank you so much.